Welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Tuesday, October 7th, 2014. You can follow us on Twitter at CATEX TV. In the trial down in Washington, D.C., in which Hank Greenberg, representing CV Star, is suing the government over unfair punitive terms for the AIG takeover, yesterday some news was made. Ex-U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson admitted that there were political considerations at work when it came time to deciding the tough terms imposed upon AIG when it was rescued back in 2008. Paulson told the court yesterday that AIG was subject to tougher rescue terms than other financial institutions because regulators wanted to send a message to the markets that any U.S. government help that was offered would not come cheaply. Tim Geithner, head of the New York Federal Reserve in 2008, had told the court that Paulson was responsible for the 14% interest rate charged to AIG, which was termed extortionate by Star International during its lawsuit. Paulson said that the terms were punitive and harsher compared with the assistance other financial institutions received. He said that political considerations played into the decision to apply punitive terms. It had become a lightning rod for public outrage that needed to be dealt with. He said that he had spoken with the two presidential candidates at the time, John McCain and Barack Obama, and explained to them the deal as well as the harsh terms so that they would not criticize it. Paulson said that the harsh terms were essential for getting the arrangement through Congress. When asked by Greenberg's lawyer whether or not an AIG collapse would have wreaked havoc on the American people, Paulson responded, "I sure did, yes." In a speech at the UN during the General Assembly meetings 2 weeks ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the Iranians were conducting nuclear implosion testing at the Paulson military facility outside of Tehran. Well, it seems that perhaps something might have been done about that. At about 11:30 p.m. last night, a huge explosion rocked the military complex. According to official sources in Iran, a normal, ordinary explosion occurred that killed 2 people. However, witnesses are saying that most of 2 villages nearby have essentially been destroyed, that windows have been shattered in East Tehran, about 15 miles away from the base as a result of the explosion. This is not the first time the Iranian nuclear program has suffered unusual explosions and blasts. Most people suspect that it's part of a campaign by Israel and other Western powers, of course, presumably including the U.S., to sabotage the nuclear program. In Hong Kong today, the protests have dwindled considerably. There are only several dozen students downtown. The territory's Undersecretary of Constitutional Affairs said that the government and the students had agreed on terms of talks, saying the 2 sides would enter discussions on an equal footing. The students have confirmed this. The chief executive of Hong Kong, Chun-ying, said that the government would seek, quote, a sincere dialogue on political reform. So it's interesting the way the Chinese have been able to handle this with great finesse. We'll see what happens. Royal Sun Alliance, the big UK insurer, has appointed William McDonnell as Group Chief Risk Officer with effect from December 1st. He's going to be succeeding David Weemuth, who has decided to retire. McDonnell will be responsible for delivering the global risk framework and strategy for RSA and will report directly to the group CEO, Stephen Hester. For the second day in a row, India and Pakistan have fired bullets and mortar shells across the border between Kashmir and Pakistan. Police in both countries said troops exchanged fire for hours earlier today, killing a Pakistani man and injuring 22 others. On Monday, 9 civilians were killed as a result of cross-border fire. The 2 countries have fought 2 wars since 1947 over competing claims to Kashmir. Hundreds of Kurdish protesters have occupied the Dutch Parliament building in The Hague, calling for more action to combat the Islamic State in Iraq. Official Twitter feed of the Hague police have asked the public not to go to the square outside the parliament. They say that the protest is peaceful. Throughout Europe, Kurdish protesters took to the street in protests asking for help in combating ISIS in Rome, London, Vienna, Cologne, and Stockholm. In Istanbul, the protest turned violent. Turkish police opened fire with tear gas and water cannons. Dutch F-16 bombers on Sunday began flights over Iraq, and the Dutch Defense Ministry said that they are now ready to be deployed over Iraq. Here's an interesting story. The iconic Waldorf-Astoria has been sold in New York City to the Anbang Insurance Group for $1.95 billion. The seller, Hilton Worldwide Holdings, will retain a 100-year agreement to continue to operate the hotel. The Waldorf has been the choice for American presidents since Herbert Hoover, and even houses mementos from a number of visitors, including gifts from Ronald Reagan and Dwight Eisenhower. So it's reminiscent of what happened with the Japanese in the 1970s when they were buying much of New York's real estate. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.